Good afternoon, everyone. It's Stephen Osborne here at the Rhode Island Department of Education. We're here to walk you through Prepare Rhode Island, the increasing access to dual enrollment, and the recently passed dual enrollment regulations. Just briefly as we start, we're going to go over a couple of webinar logistics. What we've done is we have muted folks on the phone. And we still ask that folks mute their phones just in the event that we do get feedback. It can be rather distracting during our webinars. But please make sure to mute your phone. If you are joining by phone, please make sure to enter your audio PIN. And that allows us to see that you're signed in and also allows you to interact differently with us through the webinar. We will save time at the end for the webinar. I think the actual slide deck is about 30 to 35 minutes, and then we'll use the remaining time there to be able to answer any and all questions that folks have. And then we're asking folks to type in your questions to the question bar, which is located in the bottom left of the Go to Webinar screen. This will allow us to save any and all the questions that you may have as a part of the webinar. We can add those to our FAQs moving forward. To get us started, the agenda for today is just to go through the objectives of the presentation and the objectives of the dual enrollment regulations, to give an overview of what was recently passed by the board on April 27th, to go through the different steps that you can take at your school and in your district to be able to expand dual and concurrent enrollment, provide a brief guide to local implementation of the regulation and then the different things you can do to support your students in your schools, provide an overview of the governor's proposed Prepare Rhode Island a Dual Enrollment Fund, which will allow you to be able to offer dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment to your students in your district at no cost to them or their families or to your district, and then just very quickly to go through next steps and timelines. Okay. The meeting objectives today are, one, to get a shared understanding of dual enrollment regulations. So hopefully when you walk away from this presentation, you'll be able to clearly understand the regulations, what was passed by the board, and have a clear understanding of the roles, responsibilities, and timelines associated with it. And then one of the things we want to do here at RIDE is to make sure we support and assist you in your district as you work to implement these. We know that these are new, and what we want to do is be able to make sure that we use all the resources we have at our disposal to be able to help you make this a success in your school and district. Through the opportunity and through statewide dual enrollment, we can provide universal access to challenging coursework for all of our qualified students in Rhode Island. So no longer should access be a barrier to our students. No matter where they live, they should be able to participate in high quality advanced coursework. Second is it will increase participation in college level courses for our high school students. So again, our students are better being prepared for the rigor of college while they're still in a high school experience. This will allow us to increase the rates of college enrollment and college completion. There's a lot of research out there that has shown students who participate in dual and concurrent enrollment are able to complete college quicker and or more likely to enroll in college than students who otherwise do not. And then it helps prepare our students for the demands of college and or career. So if a student is going directly to the workforce, they can take technical training. That can help prepare them for a job, or if students are being prepared for college, it helps them experience the rigor while still in high school. So those are our objectives for today. So an overview of the regulations. In 2013, the General Assembly passed the Dual Enrollment Equal Opportunity Act. And what the act did is it provided high school students and aimed to provide high school students equitable access to dual enrollment coursework. The legislation directed RIDE and the Office of the Post-Secondary Commissioner's Office to do the following. First, to convene a work group to advise the board on dual enrollment policy. Second, to develop regulations for statewide dual enrollment policy that will be adapted by both the state board and local districts by June 30th, 2015. And then third, to develop an annual report to demonstrate the efficacy of dual enrollment programming. The first step began during the 13-14 school year, where we had a work group that met 4 times and went through and developed goals and objectives for the dual enrollment work. The work group included superintendents, guidance counselors, principals, teachers, district leaders, and also folks from the higher community, and also a lot of our nonprofit partners, like College Crusade and others who've been very supportive of this work in the past. They worked and developed a policy framework, which was presented to the Board of Education in August 2014. That framework, once it was authorized by the board, was used to develop regulations, which were brought to the 2 councils, so the K-12 Council and the Secondary Council in November 2014. And then on December 1st, 2014, the Board of Education approved the draft regulations out for public comment. And RIDE and the Office of the Post-Secretary of the Post-Secretary Commissioner's Office held 3 public comment sessions. And use that to develop the final feedback, which was approved by the board on April 27th. The regulations will be effective on May 18th. And so what we've done in the effort to be able to get folks to get movement and momentum on this work now is we have begun outreach, though there will be about another 2 weeks until the regulations will be effective. For any and all regulations that are passed by RISE, there's a 20-day period that takes place from when the regulations are approved by the board until they're official with the Secretary of State's office. So the dual enrollment regulations first create a clear process for high schools to expand concurrent enrollment courses. One of the things that we heard routinely throughout the work group is that a lot of the ability to be able to expand concurrent enrollment coursework on a high school campus is based off of the relationships that folks within high schools or within school districts have with people at colleges and universities. And so we use the regulations as an opportunity to create a clear and consistent process regardless of the relationships that you may have at the local level. Second is it establishes a clear eligibility criteria, which allows teachers, students, and families to see if students are prepared to take college-level coursework. In the past, there was no criteria that was established by the colleges and universities to say if the student was truly prepared or ready to be successful in college-level coursework. And each of the different universities, URI, CCRI, and RIC, have all established a base level criteria. So you can look at that criteria and look at your students that you have in your high school and see who from URI, RIC, and CCRI standards is prepared for college-level coursework. Next, the regulations remove barriers to participation for low-income students. For many of our low-income families, they had the ability, and some actually sat through concurrent enrollment coursework, but they weren't able to pay for the college-level credit. So they went through the college-level experience, experienced the rigor, but they simply couldn't pay the fees associated with it, and as a result, weren't able to get transcripted credit. So what we have done is we've put protections in place to be able to make sure that our low-income students at no point in time will be prevented from receiving that credit. Next is we made sure in the regulations that students who participate in concurrent and dual enrollment coursework are eligible to receive both high school and college level credit for their participation. So if a student takes a engineering course at the University of Rhode Island, that could help them perhaps in meeting a science requirement for graduation or a math requirement for graduation. But ideally, if they do push themselves and try to take on a more rigorous course load, that it not only helps prepare them by receiving college credit, but it also helps them meeting their core academic requirements of their high school experience. And then one of the things we were really excited to be able to accomplish is that the dual enrollment regulations provide all qualified students access to dual enrollment and the entire catalog of courses offered on the URI, RIC, and CCRI campus. So if you have a student who wants to take a course at URI, they have the ability to participate in any course at URI, assuming that they meet the specific eligibility requirements and they have the course prereqs completed. So why are these things important? So first, students who participate in dual and concurrent enrollment programming are more likely to persist in college and receive a degree. In Rhode Island, this is incredibly important to us because right now, 47%, roughly 1 out of 2 students from Rhode Island Public High School who graduate a public high school and enroll at URI, CCRI, or RIC do not persist past their 3rd semester of college. So 1 out of 2 students do not make it into the 2nd semester of their sophomore year in high school. That's something that we as a state need to work on. And getting students exposed to the rigor and the college level experience while still in high school helps them be able to see what skills they need to develop, what they need to work on in order to be successful at the college level. Next is it reduces the cost of receiving a college degree. I don't think it's a secret to anyone, but college is becoming more and more expensive each year. And in 2014, Rhode Island's college graduates actually carried the 4th highest amount of student loan debt in the entire nation. The ability to participate in dual and concurrent enrollment coursework is something that has the ability to save our students thousands of dollars and their families thousands of dollars by simply taking one course. Next is, as we look at the needs of the workforce moving forward, is that our students will have more options to take technical posting in their coursework. In just the next 5 years, 52% of Rhode Island jobs will require post-secondary education or technical training to be able to have the necessary advanced skills to be able to be employed. And so for our students, whether they want to go on a college pathway and begin their college experience, or students who perhaps want to get a job, let's say electric boat, or they want to do advanced manufacturing work, is that they through this opportunity, can take technical coursework CCRI, and have that help prepare them for the workforce. So through this, we'll be able to help not only reduce the cost of college, we'll be able to help our students who do go to college be able to persist and be more successful, and then help our students who ultimately go to enter the workforce after receiving a high school diploma. So there's two types of dual enrollment, and I think in the past and historically we've used the term dual enrollment for both. But what we wanted to do is get very clear in the regulations on the two different types of dual enrollment that we commonly see in our high schools. The first is concurrent enrollment. And concurrent enrollment is a type of dual enrollment when the student takes a college-level course receiving both high school and college-level credit on their high school campus. This course is taught by a high school teacher who has been approved by the respective college or university. So this would be your typical K-12 high school staff who's employed by the school district and is, again, teaching that on a high school campus. Second is dual enrollment programming for the purpose of the regulations when the high school student enrolls as a non-matriculating student in a college-level course receiving both high school and college credit on the campus or of a college or university while remaining enrolled in their high school. And this course is taught by a college instructor on a college campus. And it's typically the K-12 student in this scenario is immersed with other college-level students and will likely be in the minority, and the minority being that the majority of participants in the class will be college-level students. So as you and your district move forward, there's a series of things that you can do to help expand concurrent enrollment. You can do that in the 15-16 school year by determining which of your high school teachers meet URI, RIC, and CCRI's instructor qualifications. We'll review a document at the end of the webinar which outlines the really clear criteria that have been laid out by each of the three institutions. Where per their accreditation standards, they need to make sure that any instructor or person teaching a course that is given college-level credit meets their different accreditation standards. And we'll go through those, and those vary by course. So you can determine which teachers you have that already meet those qualifications. Second is at the district or at the school administration level to support your teachers in applying for approval from URI, RIC, and CCRI. The process is not terribly extensive, but teachers do need to submit information, and including their syllabus, the different key competencies that they're going to have, and even include information on the assignments that we're going to ask students to complete. Third is to survey students to determine the level of course interest at your school. With the concurrent enrollment course, there's a much larger fixed cost, just like offering AP or offering other honors courses, where you would want to make sure that you have enough students who actually have interest in the topic or in the course area to be able to fill that section to have it make sense for you to be able to offer in your high school campus. And then finally is to establish a clear, simple process to enroll your students. One of the responsibilities with schools and districts in concurrent enrollment is to be able to make sure that your students are effectively, and their information is effectively communicated with the different colleges and universities to be able to make sure that they are transcribed to the credit once they've received a qualifying grade. The deadlines for the upcoming school year is high school teachers must apply to teach concurrent enrollment courses. For RIC, RIC has extended their deadline to May 8th, and I think just to be really clear, RIC has been very flexible in this process, and what they've asked us is if a school or a district is considering expanding participation in the EP program, which is a form of concurrent enrollment, that schools and districts submit the names of teachers to their point of contact. We will show you their information later in the presentation, but list the names of the teachers, the high school that they're teaching from, and the courses that they'd like to offer. Because of the late approval of the regulation, RIC has been very supportive in saying that they will give folks additional time to be able to submit their syllabus and other supporting documentation. URI and CCRI do not have a specified deadline, but I would strongly recommend folks just to submit sooner rather than later because our colleges and universities will be transitioning over to the summer schedule, and a lot of their folks will be out. So it would be slower to be able to get folks to be approved to be able to teach at CCRI and URI. So if you're considering expanding dual enrollment, you can work to do that in your district by doing the following things. First is to be able to review student ILPs or individualized learning plans to determine if there are courses of interest that your students have that aren't able to be taught right now on your high school campus. For example, you may have a student who has a passion in gaming and computer technology, and it doesn't make financial sense to be able to offer a course with 1, 2, or maybe 4 or 5 students on your high school campus. through this opportunity, you have the ability to enroll your students in any course on URI, RIC, or CCRI's campus. And to be able to make sure that you have students taking advantage of that, look through and determine what your student passions are, to be able to make sure that they're prepared not only for the success in the course, but they're taking courses that meet their passions and personal interests. Second is to review your school and the post-secondary institution's scheduling policies. This is going to be really important to determine how you can support students who want to participate in dual enrollment. For example, some high schools in Rhode Island and nationally, they've transitioned their schedules where they have flexibilities for students to be able to take dual enrollment coursework in the morning. And then they come back in the afternoon and they have the ability to take the other courses that they need to take to be able to meet their graduation requirements in the afternoon. And so we'll be looking at the different colleges and university schedules, and then also what you can do at the local level to be able to make sure you're supporting your students and giving them the flexibility they need to be able to effectively participate in dual enrollment. Next is districts are required per the piece of authorizing legislation to adopt a dual enrollment policy by June 30th, 2015 to support student participation. Again, we will go through the different required elements of that. And it's my understanding also that the Superintendent's Association is drafting a draft model policy. We have to work with them on that to be able to make sure that that policy meets all the required elements. But we will also show the required pieces that need to be part of that as well. So through the dual enrollment opportunity, our students have access to the entire course catalog. And I want to stress that again, is that our students, if they have the prereqs and they meet the different qualifications, they can take any course offered on the URI, RIC, or CCRI campus. And this is an amazing and unprecedented opportunity to be able to make sure that we're pushing our students and then also offering them coursework that best meets their personal passions. So the district dual enrollment policy, which again needs to be adopted by June 30th, 2015, requires that districts have a clear policy to provide students information about concurrent enrollment courses which will be available on the high school campus. So what will you be offering within the walls of your high school? Second, describing the dual and concurrent enrollment grading policy. So if you offer additional GPA bonus credit for students who earn college level credit while in high school, what are those different weights? So for example, will a student receive a 4.5 for getting an A on a college level course? Just something where that's clearly shown. So families, students, and teachers have a place to be able to read more about that. Next is to describe how the high school will award credit for college level coursework. So again, if you're going to have students taking, let's say, engineering on a college level campus, how are you and your faculty going to be able to make sure that that coursework meets your local criteria and requirements for meeting the graduation requirements? Next is to designate a staff coordinator or a point of contact to oversee dual and concurrent enrollment programming. Also, this will make sure that your district has one person or your school has one person that URI, RIC, and CCRI go to if they need more information. Again, this is one thing we heard very clearly from them, is that in the past, there hasn't been a clear point of contact for schools and districts. And so there may be specific teachers, guidance counselors, principals, or other folks in leadership positions who they would be turning to. And I think what they were very frustrated with is that folks weren't always authorized to act. So ideally, it's someone who's on your leadership team, either in the building level or the district level, who's able to work quickly to be able to get and communicate back and forth with each of the institutions. Next, it will detail all the program costs, which will be incurred by both either students or districts. This must include both textbooks and transportation. And textbooks are to be picked up by the district if students take a dual enrollment coursework on a college campus, because the coursework students will be taking will be a part of the high school experience. And so it will still be the district's responsibility to be able to provide those textbooks. In transportation, districts are encouraged to support students in finding transportation options to be able to take dual enrollment coursework. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it is the student's responsibility to be able to make sure that they provide transport and they have transportation to be able to take dual enrollment opportunities. Next is the process must detail a clear student eligibility criteria, including your criteria for determining if students are eligible to participate in dual and concurrent enrollment. Again, in the past, our colleges and universities haven't had a criteria, and also students locally haven't had a criteria as well. So how will you be determining and assessing if a student is ready to be able to access and participate in college level coursework? Next is to detail the process for providing student supports and accommodations. So if you do have a student who's taking a heavy load of college level coursework, what will you be doing locally in the district to be able to make sure that that student is ready for success and is receiving all the different supports that they need, whether they be tutoring, mentoring, other things, but helping them develop the skills they need to be successful in a more rigorous academic experience. And then finally, is to detail how students will be recruited in the dual and concurrent enrollment. And this is to make sure that there's a clear process to identify students, that make sure that students and families are communicated with clearly, to be able to make sure that they are aware of this opportunity and the different benefits that are available to them. So one of the things that came up in this process that's just incredibly exciting is that the governor's office has proposed to prepare Rhode Island Dual Enrollment Fund. And this work is incredibly exciting for a whole bunch of reasons. I think one, first, it signals the governor's commitment to helping transform education in Rhode Island, and then also her commitment to be able to cutting down the cost of receiving a college education for our students. In the governor's budget, the governor has proposed funding which would provide and cover all of the costs of dual and concurrent enrollment coursework for students and their families. So historically, students in the past have had to pay the per credit fees or application fees to be able to take EEP courses or other concurrent courses or to take dual enrollment coursework. And through the governor's proposal is every single student in Rhode Island who is qualified per URI, RIC, and CCRI standards, they will have the opportunity to be able to take this coursework at no cost to them or to their families. So what does this specifically mean? And one of the things that we wanted to do from a RIDE perspective and a K-12 perspective is to make sure that we bring this into reality, but with reducing the different burdens and potential paperwork that would take place at the district level. And so what will happen next year is that the Office of the Post-Secondary Commissioner will reimburse URI, RIC, and CCRI. It's a per credit tuition application and testing fees for students who participate in dual and concurrent enrollment programming. And so any student, again, in a public high school in Rhode Island, those costs will be picked up by URI, RIC, and CCRI through the Post-Secondary Commissioner. So there won't be a transfer of funds to the district to then pay URI, RIC, or CCRI. It's simply that we will have data systems on the URI, RIC, and CCRI side and on the RIDE side, which will show us which students in Rhode Island and our public high schools are taking these types of coursework, and then the Office of the Post-Secondary Commissioner will reimburse them. The funds can really help dramatically reduce the cost of college. For a student who would take an in-state student who would take a 3-credit course at URI next year, the 3-credit cost of that in the 15-16 school year would be $4,191. So every student who takes a 3-credit course, if they go to URI, stands to potentially save $4,200 per course they take in high school. This is obviously something that dramatically cuts down the cost and is a huge benefit to students and their families and the overall Rhode Island community. So what do you need to do locally to be able to make sure that your students take advantage of this opportunity? First, it's communicate with and ensure your students and families are fully aware of the benefits and the risks of participation. I think we want to emphasize both. The benefits are obviously very clear, that students get exposed to the rigor of college-level coursework while still in high school. They're more likely to be able to graduate graduate college, and graduate college on time. They're more likely to have a higher GPA in college. But also, we want to emphasize the risks as well. Part of a dual enrollment experience is experiencing the different expectations that come with being a college-level student. And one of those things is that the student, for example, takes a college-level course and gets a D or a failing grade, is that's something that stays with them on their college transcript. One of the stories we heard throughout the process was a couple of years ago, there was a summer dual enrollment program, I believe on the campus of CCRI, and there were a handful of students who either dropped out midsummer or got D's or F's. And then when students went to apply for college later that year, is that they realized that that was on their college transcript. And for some of the students, it actually impacted their ability to be able to get financial aid. And so it's really important that we stress both the benefits, which are clear, but that we also show that this is truly a college-level experience. And what you do during this time is something that stays with you throughout your entire college education. Next is to work with students, again, to meet the eligibility criteria for each of the different colleges and universities and work to solve scheduling challenges. Again, I think it is incumbent on us to be able to figure out how we can adapt our system to be able to accommodate each student's personal interests and passions as we aim to personalize their own education. So just to go through the different next steps and timelines, is that first, you can work within your district to identify opportunities to expand dual and concurrent enrollment within your district by first identifying students who would benefit from participating in dual and concurrent enrollment programming, and that's something you can do immediately. Second is to identify eligible teachers that you have employed already at your high school to be able to teach concurrent enrollment courses. Again, Rick has asked that we submit those names by May 8th. Next is to identify barriers to participation in dual enrollment. So figure out what locally would make it difficult for students to be able to participate. Perhaps it's transportation, perhaps it's location, perhaps it's scheduling, perhaps there's a series of other things. But what are those different barriers, and work systematically to help remove those. And then finally, to develop and adopt district dual enrollment policies. And again, that needs to be done per the piece of authorizing legislation by June 30th, 2015. And then finally is encourage your students to become invested in college experience before they leave the high school campus. This is something that I've seen firsthand work tremendously well with dual enrollment coursework, is many of our students simply don't see themselves as college material. And through this opportunity, you have the ability to give them the opportunity to truly believe in themselves and to truly believe that they can be successful on a college level campus. So some of the resources that we've made available to help and support you, and I think one of the things we want to be very clear is to make this process as easy as possible on you and your district, is RIDE can help with you with some tools that we've developed and other resources and potential outreach. So please contact us as you feel necessary with the different opportunities. If you're working with a specific college or institution, we can be a support or assistance. We can be supportive in helping you design and set up systems to report student enrollments to URI, Rick, and CCRI. We can be a supporter or assistance to help you identify qualified teachers that are locally hired within your district. And then finally, we can also help you develop the local policies. RIDE will not be drafting and distributing a model policy, but we are more than happy to work with you, one, to share the different components of a policy that need to be met, and then secondly, also to be able to give you feedback on the policy that you draft and develop locally. In a minute, we'll go to the website to show some of the resources that we do have available to you, where we set up a web page to give you information and pull it all together in one place about the dual enrollment and Prepare RI. You can get that by visiting ride.ri.gov/dual enrollment. On the website, we have a printable 2-pager for district and high school level staff. We've drafted sample letters to communicate to students and families. We have a version in English and a version in Spanish. We have a course catalog of all the different concurrent enrollment courses which can be offered on a high school campus next year. In total, there's more than 60 courses that we're able to get the different colleges and universities to agree to. And they also very clearly outline the instructor qualifications and the student eligibility criteria. Next is we have each of the universities and colleges have a very clear point of contact to be able to support folks with dual and concurrent enrollment, and that's included on the website. We also include, I believe it's about 9 or 10 pages long, a list of FAQs. So if there's questions that folks have, today we will be adding it to that document, but we've also tried to use that document to answer many of the questions which have already come up as we've communicated with superintendents, guidance counselors, and other stakeholders. And then shortly, we will have a student flyer. So if districts are looking for a draft student flyer to share with students and families, we'll have a sample on the website. And then URI, Rick, and CCRI will be posting info sheets shortly on the different benefits of their individual programs. What I'd like to do right now is just to briefly go through the website. I'm going to show you that information so it's something that you and your team are familiar with. And then you can also see it's a very rich and dense page with a tremendous amount of information. But I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to see this while we're together on the call today. And the page is taking a moment or two loading, so it should be up shortly. Okay. So the website that we've put together aims to, again, provide very clear information about the opportunity. It's a very basic overview here. But what we've tried to do lower down on the page is to provide information for the different groups who will want information about dual and concurrent enrollment. First, we've started with students and families. So students and families will learn about this opportunity, whether it be through the governor's generous support or through their schools and districts. There's a place for them to turn. And so first is that we have a brief summary that's included in both English and Spanish. And it provides information and aims to give students info about, are they ready to be able to take a college level course? What are the different criteria? And then having an associated FAQ document, which lets students be able to see what the different requirements are. So we're loading that page right now just to be able to give you and give you a sense of the different resources, tools, supports that are available. And I think this is a good advertisement right now for increasing the speed of broadband, but obviously things are not going too quickly here today. So very basically here is we have our document about dual and concurrent enrollment. And as you can see, it provides information very high level, but then it dives down into the weeds later on. So some starts with the overview. Then we get into academic pieces, so courses, credit, and transferability. So for example, let's say you take a concurrent enrollment course at RIC. If you end up going to URI, how does that translate to you getting your bachelor's degree? And again, we have the information about student eligibility and some of those other pieces in here. So again, it's a very rich document, 7 pages in total, which detail all that information. Also on the document, it provides information about concurrent enrollment and dual enrollment and kind of the different steps that you can take to be able to make sure you can enroll in those opportunities. And then very clearly, we wanted to provide information about the responsibilities that a student faces as a college student. So again, we wanted to make sure that we stress the importance of this, so students are fully aware that they are truly a college student when they take advantage of this opportunity. And then down here towards the end, we get very clear about the course and tuition costs that families face. Again, through the Prepare RI Dual Enrollment Fund, students will not have to pay any tuition or fees associated with taking dual or concurrent enrollment coursework. We also outline all the transfer information, and on ritransfers.org, students can actually type in specific concurrent and dual enrollment courses to be able to see how it would transfer not only towards elective credit towards receiving a degree, but also in their major areas. So you can see if you're taking an engineering course, it will ultimately help you get a bachelor's in engineering. We outline information for schools and districts. So we have a printable summary for district and school leaders. We have a sample letter in both English and Spanish to help you communicate with your families about this opportunity. We've put together a sample two-sided flyer to be able to help you communicate with your students and families. And then also we've linked to the FAQ document as well. Additionally, we have information about the different LEA and school level responsibilities. And we provide, again, an overview of the course costs, and then provide some basic information about the concurrent and dual enrollment opportunity. We also have linked the regulations. So if folks want to be able to talk and view the document that authorizes many of these changes, please click there to be able to get more information. And we've also included a tab which includes the research-based benefits of dual and concurrent enrollment. At the bottom of the document, we get into some of the specifics of the concurrent enrollment course list and then the specific college and university point of contacts. So first, I would really encourage folks to spend some time with the concurrent course catalog to be able to see if there's courses here which are of interest to your school and your students. And as we look at this document, you'll be able to see all the different information on the courses which can be taught on the campus, taught on your campus, which are authorized by URI, RIC, and CSRI. So for example, URI here has in total 7 different URI courses, which are now eligible to be taught on a high school campus. And just going through the document here is on the first we have the course title. Next we have the college course number. So this is if a student ends up going to URI, RIC, or CSRI, this is how it would transfer over them and they get transfer credit. The number of credits that a student would receive. So most of the courses are 3 credit courses, but a handful of the RIC courses and one of the URI courses is actually a 4 credit college course. And that is why the per cost is higher. Again, the per course cost will be picked up by the Prepare RI Dual Enrollment Fund. Next is that we have the course prerequisites. So none of the URI courses actually require prerequisites, but for some of the some of the RIC and CCRI courses do have course prerequisites. And then finally, over all the way to the right is we have the instructor eligibility criteria. So for these students here, if you have a high school English teacher who has 18 hours in English, is that they would actually be able to teach a concurrent enrollment course and teach Writing 104, and your high school students would be able to receive college level credit if you're able to get your teacher approved. We've broken the catalog down where it starts with each university. So URI is first, and then we go on to RIC, and RIC has a majority of courses. RIC, due to the EET program, the great work that they've done historically, has a large suite of courses. And again, as you can see here, some of the courses do have prereqs. And I would say for the EET courses, there are some different instructor eligibility criteria that varies greatly based off of the specific course that's being taught. And then finally, CCRI. And CCRI has some courses that have become really popular at both comprehensive high schools and CTE centers. So orientation to biotech, biotech lab skills, introduction to computers, introduction to engineering and technology, introduction to mechanical, electrical and mechanical systems, and a handful of others as well. So there's really a tremendous amount of opportunities here to be able to expand both the college prep and also the academic courses, or the technical courses which can be offered on your campus. And then finally, the last piece that I want to show here on the website is by clicking the university-specific or college-specific tab here, is that you're able to get the specific information and the point of contacts at each of the different universities. So here we have both the student eligibility criteria. And so for URI, a student is recommended if they have a GPA of at least a 3.0, and they have the approval of a teacher or a counselor to say that they're prepared. URI and RIC are willing to have students who are below a 3.0 if they receive a specific recommendation from the counselor or school administrator on why the student is prepared for this coursework. That will need to be submitted as a part of the student's dual enrollment application. And then over to the right, you'll be able to see the primary point of contact for URI, and that is John O'Leary for their coursework. If we flip on over to the tag, the RIC tag, RIC's point of contact is Holly Shadoyan, and Holly has led the great work through the EP program over the last couple of years. And then also finally is the CCRI tab. And CCRI actually has 2 point of contacts because they actually run 2 separate dual and concurrent enrollment programs. But for students who are interested in participating in Running Start or high school enrichment, the contact is John Arusha. And then for students who want to participate in the STEM Connect program, which is a concurrent enrollment program, your point of contact there is Diane Nobles. And so the student eligibility criteria depends on the specific courses that students take, and that's detailed in the concurrent enrollment course catalog. So that's just kind of a brief overview of what we've put together there to be able to help prepare you and your students in implementing this program. And our hope is that you're able to take full advantage of these as you prepare for the 15-16 school year and beyond. So what I'd like to do now is to start to take questions that we have from you and your team. At this point in time, we don't have any questions. So what we'll do is just pause for a minute, and the RIDE team and I will stay on the line until about 3 o'clock. And if there's any questions that you and your district teams have, we will stay here to be able to answer them to make sure that you're ready and prepared to be able to implement these regulations next year. And also, I think we just want to make sure that folks know that we will be emailing out a copy of the PowerPoint, and the webinar will also be linked on the website where we are recording this afternoon's webinar. So if there's information that you want to come back and listen to at a later date, you'll have the opportunity to listen to it. But we are doing that. So it's still, at this point in time, we do not have any questions, but we will stay here on the line for a couple minutes to be able to make sure we answer any and all questions that folks have. So we received our first question from Brad Wilson. The question is, have students with IEPs been considered? Transportation costs, accommodations in the classroom, etc. One of the things that we've had a lot of conversations about actually is about making sure this opportunity is available to students with disabilities and that we're being mindful and cognizant of all the different considerations and costs that go into making sure that we support students with IEP. One of the things that we received very clear guidance on from our legal counsel and our support staff around IDEA implementation is that the opportunity for students to be able to participate in dual and concurrent enrollment is something that students, regardless of their disability, need to be extended the opportunity if they are qualified, and their disability cannot be a barrier to participation. So being that the student is enrolled in the high school and then their IEP is overseen by the high school is responsible for making sure that the terms of the student's IEPs are being supported properly. We did receive some guidance that if there are students who have specific services and related services through their IEP that may not be a very effective fit with taking dual and concurrent enrollment programming, is to work potentially through the IEP team to be able to make sure that the student's IEP best supports them in taking advantage of advanced coursework opportunities. Again, Brad, if you have any other questions or there's things that we can specifically or student-specific situations we can support you with, please feel free to reach out at any point in time. That's something that I know is going to be that comes up lately for folks, if that makes sense. The next question we have is from Renza Leach. The question is in section 5.0, the student eligibility criteria states that student age will not be a determiner of enrollment. But it looks like across the board, except CCRI, which has a policy for younger students. Can you comment on the criteria of the age of the students? Renza, thank you very much for the question. It's a really good question and one that came up frequently as we work with the Office of the Post-Secondary Commissioner. And per the regulations is that a student's age is not able to be something that keeps them from participating in dual or concurrent enrollment. We've kind of thought of it as a Doogie-Howser policy. I'm going to be able to make sure that our students, regardless of the level of their competency, they're able to be challenged by the coursework they take in high school, and if that means cause-level coursework, they should be able to access it. So as you move forward, and let's say you have a student who is in the 9th or 10th grade and is perhaps 14 or 15 and wants to take advantage of these opportunities, if you're facing any types of barriers or problems, please reach out to us directly. The colleges and universities, per these regulations, are supposed to admit and support these students in being successful in these coursework, regardless of their age, as long as they're prepared to meet the eligibility criteria. So right now we don't have any additional questions at this point in time, but what we will do is we will stay here on the line. Again, any questions that do get answered, if there are new questions, we will add them to the FAQ document, which will be posted on the website. But we will stay on the line for a couple more minutes. And again, if there's any specific questions that you have that are specific to your district, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. My email address, which is on the previous slide here, is Stephen, STEPHEN.Osborne, OSBORN, @ride.ri.gov. It is really easy to misspell the Stephen or the Osborne, but please feel free to reach out to me directly at any point in time. And then also my direct line here at RIDE is 222-8485. Again, it's 222-8485. So again, what I'll do is I'll mute my line here, but we will stay on the line until we answer everyone's questions, and we want to be able to stay here to be able to make sure that we support you and your district in every and any way possible. We just received a question from Karen Ferrara. The question is, if a student wishes to withdraw from a course or program, is that drop policy one that the college already has in place for their institution? This is a really good question, and the answer is this is the policy that is in effect is the college and university's policy. So if a student, for example, drops a course at, let's say, URI in mid-October and the drop date was late September, the student would get a drop or withdrawal or incomplete on their college transcript. So that entire process is driven by the specific institution's policies. It's a really good question. Thank you, Karen.